easy to get caught up in fancy licks, guitar tricks. I mean, I love that stuff. But one thing that I absolutely love about the blues is just how much you can say with only a few notes. It's all about emotion, not what's going on the fretboard. Hey, John here with your Tuesday Blues, and on this channel we dig into acoustic blues with straightforward lessons to help you play better blues each and every week, and that's what we're about to do right now. In this lesson, we're going to put together some really slow and vibey Delta blues licks that are surprisingly easy to play. But before we do that, go ahead and hit the like button. Let me know you're digging this Delta blues stuff, and let's get into the lesson. This first lick in E really sets up the main theme, the main vibe that we're going for. And you can hear licks like this in tunes like 3220 Blues by Muddy Waters. Great version of that song. There's just a few notes in the riffs, but it really drips with mojo. Let's give it a listen. I absolutely love the sound of this, but to me what's really cool about it is it's very accessible, even for relative beginners on the guitar. Take a look at what I was doing picking wise. I'm just pushing through the strings with my thumb. There's no fancy finger picking going on here at all. This may have even been the first way that you kind of plucked the guitar. The very first time you picked it up, you might have just, strummed, probably didn't strum a chord, but maybe some strings like that. All we're doing is pushing through, and I'm pushing through enough to rest on the next string, all right? And there's not that much going on the fretboard, although there's one trick there that really helps to add to the Delta bluesiness of this. But we start out with just a couple of low E's, and then we've got a triplet. So we've got 1 and 2 triplet. That triplet starts on the B, 5th string, open, D, down on the E. So we've got 1 and 2 triplet. Again, all with the thumb there. And then what we do next is, to me, the coolest part of this measure. We shift up to the 5th fret. And if you want to play that with your little finger, totally cool. I tend to get slightly out of position, get some help from these fingers to play that note because I want to pull it. Just pull it down, bending that note. You can listen, it's going to go sharp as I pull, as I bend. And we're going to do that for one beat and then back to the E, D, E in a triplet rhythm. So we've got 1 and 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet. 1 and 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet. The next measure kind of adds a little bit more of that bending. We're going to repeat that to really just kind of make a statement with that bluesy bend. And while we're talking about that bend, I'm not bending up to a half step. I'm not bending up to a full step. It's just a slight bend, a blues bend, where we just kind of pull it sharp and just get that little cry happening. And what we're doing for the notes in bar 2 is this. Alright, so we start out very much the same as we did in bar 1, but we're going to bend on beat 3 and the end of 3, the end of 4, or sorry, the 4, and then on the end of 4, we go back down to the E. All plucked with the thumb here, alright? And if that's a little too fast for you, no worries, slow this thing down. That's the point really of these slow Delta blues, is that you can kind of create enough space and time by dragging this out, and it really, to me, contributes to the mood, to that dark, vibey mood that we're going for. So there it is, a little slower, and to me it still retains its character, and you could go slower than that if you're working on getting the notes under your fingers. Now, we've definitely set the tone of these 12 bars with just this simple phrase, but we're going to answer it with the next couple of bars. Here's bar 3 and bar 4. Alright, same technique happening here as far as the picking. This is all thumb, all just kind of pushing through, resting on the next string as as I pump through it. We're starting out with the same lick that we played, the same riff we played in bar 1. But in bar 4, we add something a little bit different because we're getting ready to change chords in bar 5. So we want to do something a little bit special here to kind of lead us and move us away from E and into A, which is our next chord. So what we do in bar 4 is we start out by pumping the E, the 1 and then we've got another triplet, and then what we've got is pump the E again for beat 3 and the and of 3, and then another triplet. But here we're going from the E to D to B. So bar 4 is. Bars 5 and 6 are really cool. This is where we shift away from E and we move into A. And we're going to play some really simple licks on the higher strings rather than just sticking to the low 3 strings. Let's give it a listen. I'll come back and tell you how to play it. All right, a couple of cool measures there. And like I said, we're switching gears and we're using the treble strings here, the top strings. We're going to start out with the open 5th string, played with the thumb. And you can let that ring or you can punch it. But on the and of 1, we're going to shift, and I'm going to start picking with my index finger, and we're going to the 1st string. We're going to the A on the 5th fret. And we're going to pluck that on the and of 1, and then on 2. On the and of 2, we're going to drop down to the G, put one of those blues bends on it. Just slightly push that sharp, okay? That's what we're looking for. And then open, 1st string, followed by the C note. That's what gives this that minor vibe, right? We're just kind of hinting at A minor here. And then what we're going to do is let this hang. And then on the and of 4, we're going to do a little stumble. So we go back to our thumb picking on the 6th string, and we push through, and then you kind of want to turn your thumb to mute that string, and then pluck the 5th string open again here. This is now the top of bar 6. And we're going to do a very similar line on top. What we're going to do is and of 1, because this is 1, so 2 on the A, and then 2 on the G, but the first one starts a triplet. So we've got, so there's the triplet, G, E, C. Then we're going to end with 4 and. So that's an A and then a low G, and we're going to do a little blues bend there as well. We're headed back to E. That's where we're going. But not to get ahead of ourselves. So let's play through bars 5 and 6 at a slow pace here. And that low E is the top of the next measure, which gets us back into our E chord stuff. And we're going to call back to what we did at the very beginning of this progression, but we're going to change things up slightly. We've got 2 bars here. This would be bar 7 and bar 8. And in bar 8, we're kind of building toward a big change. We're going to move into the 5 chord. And that's coming, but we want to do something a little bit special here in these couple of bars to help us get there, to help move this along, but without completely leaving what we've done in E so far. So here's what bars 7 and 8 sound like. All right, we are borrowing some elements from where we've already been for sure. We start, we're going to let this E ring, but then we've got our triplet right on beat 2, 2 triplet. Then we're going to do our bends, but we're going to kind of let them hang. We're going to really slow them down and bend on beat 3, beat 4, and then beat 1 of bar 8. And then on the end of 1, so we're going to bend that half as long and then go down to E. So we've got this. At this point, we're ready to transition into the B7. Hey, before we cover these last few bars and bring this thing home, do me a favor and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. I've got blues lessons coming out just like this each and every week, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make sure that you don't miss a one. And now let's get back to the final 4 bars here. All right, these 4 bars are a lot of fun, and we're borrowing some tactics, some tricks from some of the legends. We'll dig into that as we get to it, but we're starting this out on kind of an odd spot right here. It's the D sharp. This is the 3rd of our B7 chord, right? So instead of going straight to it, we can add a little bit of interest here by starting the measure on this note. We're going to do that, so we go 1, then we strum through the top 3 strings. Sometimes you'll play a B7 with this down on top, but totally cool to leave that open. Sounds cool to me. Gives it a little something extra there, right? And so what we're going to do is strum 2 and 3, 4 and 1. All right, so we're just kind of walking down with a typical bass pattern for the blues. And then this next lick is one of my favorites in this arrangement because we start to call attention to a lick that's in Son House's Walking Blues. Great song, and this lick just kind of pops out in the very beginning over A. So we're going to use it here. We're going to tip our hat to Son House, the great Son House. You got to listen to that track if you haven't already. We're going to start out with a couple of A notes. Do that bend on our C note. That's the minor 3rd. Remember, we kind of featured it here, but we're going to feature it here in the lower octave. Throw in a triplet there. And then hit again on the A. And then to move us down into E, one of these low G notes, and then E. And then here what we're going to do is take something that Charlie Patton did in Pony Blues, and we're going to twist it into something that sounds like it fits this minor vibe thing that we've got going here. We're going to start with the bass, brush up top 2 strings, and then hit the E. So far we got a lot of E's happening. Then what we're going to do, this is where it's different than Patton's Pony Blues, we're going to go up to the D and do a blues bend on it. And this is all right on the beat. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 1. And to finish out this measure, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and just brushing up top 3 strings under an E major. You can make it a little bluesy and put that little finger down on the D on the 2nd string, get an E7. So Patton's Pony Blues has more of a, we hit this note, sounds more major to me. So what we're going to do is kind of really give it more of that minor flair here. By hitting that flat 7 note, that bluesy. It's a D. There's the D there as well. These are some of the notes that kind of create that darker Delta blues sound. Really cool few measures here. One cool thing about tunes like this is that they work great as a platform to insert your own licks. You can punch this thing up with a micro lick here or there, wherever it feels good, really. And you could add a few more chord strums to liven this up, and certainly don't forget to vary the dynamics and change things up. Now, I've put together a playlist to help you keep going. Just click or tap right over here, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, practice smart and play on.